Boom! We are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the Nolan Hawkeye Anthony YouTube channel. And I thank all of you for being here, wherever you may be, and of course, however you may be listening. I'm gonna try and get through this video. It's crazy. Like doing the weirdest things can totally hurt your back or pinch a nerve in your back, pull a muscle in your back. I was literally blowing my nose and my back just started hurting. So pinch nerve, but I've always dealt with those issues. So I'm gonna power through this video for you guys because I have some big news indeed, simply huge, and it is of course reported by Hawkeye Insider, the 247 Sports Iowa Hawkeyes website. David Eichholt, Sean Bach. Sean Bach, of course, does have me blocked on X, but I digress. They are reporting that Ben McCollum is going to be Iowa's next men's basketball coach. So there's a few things to say right off the bat. Okay, number one, he has not been introduced as Iowa's men's basketball coach. Iowa has not made an announcement. This is a sources say that this deal is being finalized. If that does end up holding true, then this video will serve as the reaction video to Iowa hiring Ben McCollum, if it happens, formerly Drake Bulldogs men's basketball coach. But I just want to get that out there because there's been some people who say that they don't want to react to this because it has not been formally announced. And, Darian DeVries, aka Darian DeVries, it was thought that he was the head next Iowa men's basketball coach, and there were people saying that the deal was finalized. Here's the thing. I don't subscribe to these forums for Rivals or 247 Sports. So I don't, or message boards. So I don't know the background information that's being discussed. And sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes I'm sure there is some information in there that I would become privy to quicker. That is accurate. But I think in the case of Darian, it was actually good because I did not bite on any of that information. And I did not see any articles that were formally written like we're seeing with Ben McCollum stating and putting it on to the internet and the ethosphere formerly in an article that he is going to be Iowa's next men's basketball coach. So I don't think it's a like for like comparison. I think the Darian situation was more speculation on the intense talks that they were engaging in, and that perhaps it was close. I could be wrong, but that's kind of what it seemed to me. Whereas Ben, it's more set and more it's more set in stone, I would say, from the Hawkeye media landscape, as it were. But still, if he does not end up being Iowa men's basketball coach, of course, I'll make a video on that. But this is not me being wrong or anything like that. It's just me reacting to the sources say that he is going to be Iowa's next men's basketball coach, and they are finalizing the deal. But again, he has not been announced. And we have not seen formal announcements from Drake, Iowa, or Ben and his people. So let's start here. Well, actually, we already started somewhere. Let's go here. By the way, guys, hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys for all the support. I think the channel has seen a nice little surge. in the most recent videos I've done discussing and detailing this ever since Iowa let go of Fran McCaffrey. I actually talked about this situation far before they let go of Fran McCaffrey, but specifically from the Fran McCaffrey being let go day after, I believe it was the day after they lost to Illinois in the Big Ten tournament, to now. There's been a lot of support for the videos, and I appreciate it. Of course, not everybody loves what I have to say, but I would say it's been overwhelmingly positive, and I do appreciate the support. Subscribers and all of that is not the end all be all. I do this for fun. Um, this is a hobby of mine. I'm an intense Iowa sports fan, but still, those are metrics that people go by, and I do appreciate it because your time is important and it's valuable, and so is mine. So, but for me, I've always said this. I've probably said it over 10 times now. With me, unlike these other like Hawkeye Media Company affiliated channels, you are going to get, and I'm not sponsored. I have zero affiliation with these entities. You are going to get 100% my thoughts from a fan perspective, what I think of any given situation. And I try to be balanced. I try and apply logic, which I would believe is God given, to these matters and go about it that way. But when it comes to Iowa sports, you really do see kind of like a circular situation where every single year, like we would see with Kirk Ferentz, the offense is better. It looks like it's being better. They're adding new stuff to the offense, and the media would get us hyped up, and then season would roll around. No, and they talk about Kirk 2.0, Kirk 3, and then we really didn't see it. So there's some things that the Iowa media does talk about to get eyeballs to their stories, but also that they minimize and don't talk about in order to maintain their relationships with the University of Iowa. And so what I'm saying is, for me, it's not even in question because I don't have that access. So, all right. Now that that's out of the way, hit the subscribe button, like, comment. You guys know the drill. Let's dive into this. So, Darian DeVries, aka Darian DeVries, in the end, whether he utilized Iowa as a springboard to the Indiana job, which I think is definitely possible. I said this before, I still believe it. I saw an article from a West Virginia fan site that said the only way that Darian was going to go to Iowa and leave West Virginia was if his emotional pull and desire to coach in his home state, specifically at the University of Iowa, was so pronounced to where it would outweigh leaving West Virginia after only one season. And I just don't, I didn't believe it then. I wish I had said it more in previous videos, but um, in fairness to me, there was a lot of push saying, especially from the media, saying that he did have that connection. And I wasn't even super familiar with the guy. Of course, his brother played at Iowa. So I thought that it was possible that he had an affinity for the University of Iowa. But I just didn't really, overall, I didn't really see it. Like, we've never really heard Darian or seen articles where he's constantly clamoring about how he loves the University of Iowa and, he loves the state of Iowa and stuff like that. Maybe Iowa State might be a dream job for him, but when it comes to the University of Iowa, I think that it's very much in question. And now I think we know our answer with him going to Indiana. He doesn't really have any sort of affinity for Iowa that outweighs some of his other more pronounced motivations, such as resources, prestige of the university, things like that. And I think questioning if Iowa State or Iowa is more important to him, I think says it all. Because if we don't even know that, and we don't even know that he has an affinity for either, let alone for one specifically between the two, it's nebulous. And so in the end, it's like it's not really surprising because at least for me anyways, because I just didn't see this affinity that he had for Iowa. Now, getting that out of the way, um, if I compare the two, David Eichel, as soon as the conversations died down, and I did a video that day because we saw an article on Rivals that was titled "Where the disconnect was between Iowa and Darien." What went wrong or whatever, one of those types of articles. And then we saw an article from 247 Sports saying why Ben McCollum still is the best option, was and still is the best option for Iowa. You know, Darian, I think, he's fairly young. He's about middle aged. I think he's kind of in that sweet spot. Um, I heard Chad Leistico mention the fact that I believe it was Chad that Beth Getz, aka Beth Gates, um, and Darian could kind of grow together. But that's the case for Ben McCollum as well. If you get a young enough coach, you can grow with Beth. And this was her going to be her first major hire where she was conducting a full blown coaching search. Um, so the decision was really really important for her to get right. But I think with Darian, the biggest thing that you would get with him is a guy that did have some familiarity with the state of Iowa, and obviously had a track record of being successful at the Division I level. Let me pull up his coaching record here. I also think in the short term, I do think Darian would have had an easier job attracting talent to Iowa, either from his players formerly at West Virginia. Um, I think that'll be the case now with him at Indiana, um, and specifically his son. So I think Darian, in my eyes, would have had an easier position or opportunity to immediately put Iowa basketball on track with the talent that he was able to get either not associated with West Virginia or Iowa via the transfer portal, or guys that he did know from previous coaching stops that he had to get them to Iowa, including his son. But let's look at his record here. Drake, he was 24-10. CIT first round. Is the CIT still a thing? College Insider postseason tournament was a postseason, concluded 2019. Um, Tied for first in the conference, 20-14, eighth, 26-5, second, 25-11, tied for second. He made the Division I tournament in 2020, 2021. And then I wonder what these colors are here, why they're highlighted. 27-8. The year before in the 25-11 season, 13-5 in the conference, tied for second. He went to the CBI College Basketball Invitational single elimination, fully bracketed men's basketball postseason tournament. Um, Looks like it's done. Was a single season. And then 20, 22, 20, 23, 27-8, 15-5 second, round of 64. And then the following year, 28-7, 16-4 second, round of 64. So a slightly better season. So obviously he did do really good things at Drake. And Drake has done a good job of, in recent years, finding good young up and coming coaches, especially guys that have ties to the state of Iowa. Sorry, guys, my allergies are killing me. Think is it fall that we're coming across now, or is it spring that we're hitting here? And then West Virginia, he went 19 and 13, 10 and 10. So, the guy hasn't had a ton of postseason success. And again, I would say that he has more Division One experience than Ben McCollum. But it's not like super pronounced. As far as the overall experience, it is stronger from the Division One level. But we're not seeing him have any Sweet 16 or Elite Eight appearances, which again is definitely very difficult to do at a school like Drake. But still, you definitely take that into consideration. His first year at West Virginia, his son Tucker DeVries, I believe, was injured. They go 19 and 13 with, I believe, six quad one victories. A lot of people thought that they should be in the NCAA tournament, and I think that that's a fair point of view. They finished tied for seventh in the Big 12, 10 and 10, so not bad. Not overwhelming, but not bad. Definitely good. And there's a reason why he was linked to the Iowa job. There's a reason why Indiana wanted him, which, by the way, there's a good chance. Well, not good chance. I think it's pretty much confirmed that Indiana was in talks with him well before the Fran McCaffrey being let go situation started. Uh, Indiana, and I said this in previous videos, pretty much knew, and the fans knew, that Mike Woodson would not be returning to Indiana for quite a long time, much longer than Iowa, uh, much further before than Iowa had made the decision to depart with Fran McCaffrey, and likely much before Beth Getz had made the firm decision to get rid of Fran McCaffrey. With that said, though, with that said, I said in a previous video that there's something to be said that if Beth Getz did know for a week, 2 weeks, maybe even before that, that maybe it was worth considering getting rid of Fran McCaffrey before the end of the season in order to begin the coaching search sooner. Now, that's not to say that Beth Getz wasn't starting to do that behind the scenes already, but if you do that and you get caught doing that, you do risk a PR nightmare where Fran McCaffrey, publicly says that the University of Iowa is talking to other coaches and, he's the coach now and it's not loyal. So even if Fran was there and Beth did decide to do that, it's not the most professional thing. I wouldn't say that it's wrong to do that, but it's not the most professional, and you would risk uh some public mishap there. But all things being equal, I think you can make the case that if Beth did know that she wanted to move on, and the university, they had come to the decision that they wanted to move on from Fran multiple weeks before they actually got rid of him, I think you can make the case that it would have been better for them to have done it sooner so that they would have been able to attack this situation in a much stronger hand. But I'm okay with the decision because at the end of the day, there's still no guarantee that they would have landed Darian DeVries, aka Darian DeVries. And I do think there's something to be said about being loyal and being professional, and somewhat empathetic and sympathetic to a coach that is the winningest coach in Iowa men's basketball history in Fran McCaffrey, and waiting till the conclusion of the season. All right, let's take a look at Ben McCollum here. I just wanted to kind of address Darian DeVries before we take a look at Ben McCollum, just to juxtapose both of those guys, because those were the two biggest names linked to this Iowa job. So here we go. Ben here. He's a few years younger than Darian, and I think he looks younger, which I think is good. He's in shape, and these things do matter. When you're going out on the recruiting trail, it's the same. It's the same in business, in sales. The better appearance you're able to portray, I think the more likely you're going to be able to land and be successful in whatever endeavor you're trying to do. Studies have shown that. So I think Ben McCollum has a good look. He's a little bit younger, so on and so on. Let's look at, and of course, he's from Iowa City. He grew up in, I believe, Storm Lake, Iowa, after being born in Iowa City. Yep, was born in Iowa City and grew up in Storm Lake. When he graduated from St. Mary's High School in 1999, where I'm not as familiar with the state of Iowa. I don't know how far away Storm Lake is from. Oh, it's kind of a ways away because Iowa City is like down here, so it's probably like a 3 hour drive if I had to guess. Like I said, I don't live in the state of Iowa, so it's kind of hard for me to. But the state's not massive, so I would say maybe 3 hours. Um, let's go ahead and look at his head coaching record. So he was at Northwest Missouri State. Well, let's go up and see what if he had any assistant coaching jobs. He was at Emporia State as an assistant, 2005 to 2009, and he was at Northwest Missouri State as a graduate assistant, 2003 to 2005. Um, and playing career, he played at North Iowa Area Community College, and then he played at Northwest Missouri State. All right, here is his coaching record. First 2 years, 12 and 15, 10 and 16. Then he went 22 and 7, tied for first in their conference, I believe. They are in Mid America Intercollegiate Athletic Association. NCAA Division One first round, and they lost. Then he went 21 and 10. They did not make the postseason tournament. Then he went 24 and 9, NCAA Division Two Sweet 16. Then he went 25 and 7, so an improvement. 15 and 4 with the overall record, one more loss in conference. They went to the Sweet 16 again. Then they went 27 and 6, 19 and 3, first. All these years they finished first or tied for first. Um, and they made it to the Sweet 16 again and lost. Then in 2016-17, they go 35 and 1 with an 18 and 1 record, first in their conference, and they were NCAA Division II national champs. Then following year, 27 and 4, 16 and 3, first again. They lost in the first round. So that was probably an upset loss in that game. Let's take a look. Maybe I want to see who they lost to in that game. Found it. They lost to Minnesota State. I didn't even know Minnesota State existed. They lost 60 to 50 as a one seed. So that, I think that's worth considering that they did lose in an upset in that game. Um, then the following year, they rebounded and went 38 and 0. No losses, which this is super. I don't care what level it's at. To go undefeated is super impressive. And by the way, guys, for what it's worth, Division Two is still super high level. Okay. No, it's not Division One, but it's still really high level. Okay. NAIA is super high level, especially towards the upper echelon of NAIA. Okay. Um, all of this is no joke. Okay. Again, it's not Division One, but it's definitely not nothing. And they won the national championship. So that's his second national championship. Then they go 31 and 1, 18 and 1. They win their conference again, but the tournament was canceled. There's a good chance they would have won that one too. Maybe. Uh, um, following year, 28 and 2, 21 and 1 first, and they won a national championship again. So technically two in a row, could have been three in a row. Then they go 34 and 5, 18 and 4, tied for first. They win the national championship again. Then they go 31 and 3, 20 and 2 first. They lose in the second round. And then his final year there, they go 29 and 5, 20 and 2 first. And they make a Sweet 16 appearance. So Overall, he has one, two, three, four national championships. Yep, four NCAA Division II tournament championships right here. That is crazy. His teams then went on the greater success, reaching the Division II Sweet 16 3 years in a row. He won his first of four Division II national championship at Northwest Missouri State. He then led the team to more national championships. He won his first of four. He then went on to lead the team to more national championships in 2018-19, yada, yada, yada. So, and of course, he was able to win back-to-back national championships, which is hard 3 years in a row. Then he goes to Drake and goes 31-4 in his first year, 17-3 first, and they have a first round upset of Missouri, uh, which Tony Perkins, formerly of Iowa, was on that team. He had a terrible game. I'm not sure if you're aware, but he had a terrible game, only played 15 minutes, multiple turnovers. Um, Let me see if I can find their game here real quick. And it was an 11 versus 6 matchup. They won by 10 points. And honestly, Drake did dominate that game from beginning to end. They outcompeted Missouri. They played harder. They were more physical. I watched that game. And then, of course, they lost last night, I believe, or the night before. I think it was last night, 77-64. But, good defensive performances, only allowing Missouri to score 57 points, um, and Texas Tech to score below 80. Let's go ahead and read this from 247 Sports here. Sources: Iowa in process of finalizing deal with Drake head coach Ben McCollum. And here's the thing, guys. Like, I don't know if he has a family, but it makes sense. Like if he is from the state of Iowa, if he did just move his family to Drake after one season, um, and he's got young kids. I don't know if he does, but it's not as much of an overhaul to go from Drake to Iowa as it would be to go from Drake to West Virginia, as West Virginia was definitely linked to McCollum. Um, McCollum amassed a record of 394 and 91, 81.2% win percentage at Northwest Missouri State, and earned five NABC Division II National Coach of the Year awards. And that is the most for a single coach in Division II history. Yeah, that's crazy. Um, The Hawkeyes are trending well and are expected to land their man. On Sunday, multiple sources told 247 Sports that Iowa is in the process of finalizing a deal with Drake head coach Ben McCollum. McCollum, who was born in Iowa City and raised in Storm Lake, led Drake to a Missouri Valley regular season and conference tournament title in his first year with the program, securing a spot in the NCAA tournament. So here's my final reaction, guys. Like, if this is true, which it looks like it is, this is a great get. Okay. Yes, the guy doesn't have as much Division One experience as Darian DeVries. I do think Darian DeVries would have had a easier time having immediate success at Iowa than Ben, but I don't. But like past and when I say immediate, I mean like the first year. But even for Ben, I think there's a good chance he's going to be able to get a lot of the talent or the top talent that was at Drake and some others to come to Iowa. Um, I think Iowa probably would have had to pay Darian DeVries, aka Darian DeVries, a little bit more money than Ben McCollum, but because Ben McCollum won their first round, because they were so successful, because in his first year, because at Drake, because some other names dropped. Darian had landed at Indiana, and the West Virginia job came up. The price tag did go up. Did it go up substantially more? We're about to find out. But in the end, it doesn't really matter because in this day and age, if you want to coach, like the coach that you want, there's likely other people that want him, which means that you're going to have to deploy the dump truck method, which of course is what Clay Travis coined it, the dump truck method, where you back up a big old dump truck and just lay a crap ton of money at the feet of the coach, and it's something that you can easily justify because if you do hit on the coach that you do want, that you have done your due diligence to land, why wouldn't you be able to quantify giving them that sort of money? Because if they do come to Iowa and are as successful as you believe that they can be, ticket sales will go up, excitement will go up, apparel sales will go up. That's just the way it works. One last thing before I continue to wrap up kind of my thoughts here. Here are where McCollum's teams ranked nationally in adjusted offensive efficiency dating back to 2015, 2016. Because I've seen some people say that they don't like the way that McCollum's offenses play. The thing is what matters the most is efficiency. Fran McCaffrey, yes, they still had above average to elite efficiency teams, but they also had an extremely high pace of play, which meant that often their defense lacked in intensity because of how hard they were working on the offensive side in pushing, and playing fast, up tempo. And when teams were able to bear down and defend and make Iowa earn their shots, they would have very little resistance on the other end, and that's what we've seen the last 2 years. What Iowa really was struggling, because you combine those two things and it's a recipe for failure, and that's why we would see Iowa lose these games where they scored 90 points but they lose by 20 plus points still because they're giving up 100 plus points to Wisconsin. It's crazy. So this is where they ranked in adjusted efficiency dating back to 2015-16 per synergy. 2015, 16, fourth. God, this website sucks. I don't know if it's just me, but the 247 Sports website is so glitchy and not clean. Like my stuff always freezes when I'm on it. I just want to throw that out there. It could just be me. But first, adjusted efficiency. Um, you know, again, do they play a slower paced offense? Yes. But every possession they have, they make the most of it because they are an extremely efficient team. And I don't, I'm not for one or the other. I know it's kind of the sexy thing to do now is to have a up tempo, spread out offensive system. But I think you have to go with the talent that you have on the team and the skill set that you have on your team. If you don't have that sort of team and it's not going to be advantageous for you, then it's okay to slow it up and make the most of each possession and work it to get a good shot. Um, if you have the athletes and you're still able to defend on the other end, and it's more advantageous for you to get up and down and play fast and constantly try and shove it down the opposing team's defense, then that's fine too. It's not a one size fits all. It's just not. Um, because teams that do play fast have a tendency to be sloppy. They have a tendency to lack on the defensive side of the ball. And they do have a tendency to take bad shots. Now if you don't do that, it can still be really advantageous for you. But fourth, second. So this was nationally for them. The Bearcats would average about 10 or 15 points less than most of the teams near the top of the list, but they were consistently at the top in terms of points per possession, meaning it was an efficient offense that maximized possessions. Um, McCollum will replace Fran McCaffrey, who was hired by the Hawkeyes who was fired by the Hawkeyes earlier this month after 15 seasons with the program. So, all right, guys. Again, my final thoughts on all this. Very simple. This is a great hire if it's true, as I've said already. As far as like me giving this a grade for Beth Getz, I'd give it a B plus A. I mean, how can you not? Um, to say A plus I'm not willing to go there because I do think that there might have been some other possibilities for Beth to have gone about this. And at the end of the day, I don't know if Darian was her first choice or if Ben was her first choice. And if it was Darian, then that means that they obviously swung and missed on him. But so I can't give it an A plus, but it's up there. Ben was one of the hottest coaches on the market, and Iowa, without very much NIL resources, went out and got him. Now, obviously, they have the added benefit of being going after a candidate that's from the state of Iowa and things like that. But still, it was a hot name. Who has had recent success, is a young up and comer. It's a really good name that Iowa landed. Um, I did do a recent video, a short, where I talked about the positive thing about this process. Even though Iowa, and if he was their first option, which I don't know for sure that he was, uh, even though they did not land Darian DeVries, and he may have not been their first option, ultimately this process has illuminated and brought to the surface uh, the the positives that Iowa men's basketball has and the negatives that they have currently, and kind of where they sit in the current landscape of college basketball. And I think that that's a very invaluable situation to kind of uh, to have. You have to be able to find the positive in situations like this. And the alternative is that they hold on to Fran McCaffrey and they don't find out about this stuff because they just kind of sit back and think that everything's okay, and it's kind of pushed back a year in advance. Now, in a perfect or it's pushed back a year as far as them figuring out all these things. Now, at the end of the day, they were aware of all these things, but there's a difference between being aware of these things, but having an urgency to it and truly understanding it and like acknowledging it, but not, you're kind of um, sitting in place because you're okay with the current situation that you find yourself in with a coach that's been there for multiple years, and you don't have this added fire under your fanny to get it all worked out. Um, in a perfect world, I think what Iowa would have done is either possibly gotten rid of Fran McCaffrey a year sooner, or excuse me, begun the process of letting Fran McCaffrey go a year sooner, but not gotten rid of him in order to start working on NIL packages and Swarm Collective packages to make the job as advantageous as possible. Or this year they don't let go of Fran. They hold on to him for one more year, give him one last opportunity. But in the meantime, they use the time to work out some of the NIL shortcomings and issues that they have with all of that. Swarm Collective issues that they have with that. Because the bottom line is this was a problem that Iowa needed to remedy. If you look at Iowa athletics, wrestling's going to need X amount of money. I think Chad Lysico did an article on this, and I highly recommend it. I posted it in my Facebook group. Um, wrestling's going to require X amount of money, especially because for a niche sport, Iowa is lucky that they're able to generate whatever revenue they're able to generate being a niche sport. But they sell out home matches, and so X amount of money is going to have to go there. Iowa women's basketball has X amount of momentum. They're going to need a certain amount of money. Iowa football is the number one sport for every university. It's the moneymaker. They're going to need X amount of money. So you break all this stuff down, and you're only left with so much money for Iowa men's basketball, and that means that you have to find more creative ways to generate the money to get to these players and to make the coaching job and Iowa as a destination sexier and more of a advantageous destination. So in the end, I think this whole situation did aid in these things coming to the surface. And now fans are aware, the university is painfully aware of this. And at the end of the day, they still land a really good freaking head coach. Freaking head coach. I promise I don't use the word frickin' very often. I use a different word, and they're still able to land this guy, one of the top up and coming young head coaches. So, I got to tell you guys, I mean, where I sit right now, I'm very excited about the future. This is awesome. This is great news if it bears out to be true. I would definitely give Beth a B plus to an A. And I don't think Iowa men's basketball is where it was at when Todd Licklider was fired. But they still do have some things that they got to fix. Carver Hawkeye Arena needs to be fixed, NIL needs to be worked out, so on and so on. But at least they have a new head coach. If it bears out to be true, that fans, donors, and everybody involved can be excited about, because that at the end of the day is what got Fran McCaffrey fired, was the lack of excitement that he pushed on towards Iowa basketball. The fans had become apathetic to Iowa men's basketball. It was the same old, same old. Nothing was changing. Nothing was improving. If anything, there was a step back here, a step back there. And that's what happened. So last couple things to round out this video, because it's been a long one, I think. We'll see. We'll see about the success. I'll have to probably do another video on what I will expect from Ben and what my expectation for success will be. But I think I can confidently say that within 5 years, I would say, maybe even less, the expectation should be that Iowa is trending towards a consistent top 25 program with possibly a Sweet 16 appearance. Because I hate to tell you guys, it's still about winning. And Fran McCaffrey, another reason why fans were apathetic and why he was let go is because they weren't able to have deep postseason runs and get past the round of 32. They would always, they would get to the round of 32. He had multiple NCAA tournament appearances, but then they would lose. And, fans, it's hard for them to get excited when you know that you're only going to go so far, especially if it's over an elongated period of time. So I'm just keeping it real. I mean, a lot of fans are going to, and I think I would include myself in that, would expect he's going to have to get Iowa to a Sweet 16. I'm not saying for sure within the first 5 years, but I'm saying we need to see that it is at the very least approaching that and getting there to instill the confidence in us as fans that over the next few years past that they have a really good chance of reaching a Sweet 16 or higher. It's just the way it is, guys. I mean, now every situation is different. The circumstances, I cannot foresee, if Ben McCollum in year 2 or 3 is able to win a Big Ten regular season title, but they don't, if they're able to win a Big Ten regular season title or a Big Ten conference tournament in one of his first 5 years, or two of his first 5 years, and they don't make a Sweet 16, is that sufficient? Yeah, probably. So it's hard to say. It's hard to say. I think for me, what I can say right now is, um, I want to see something different. I want to see Iowa defending again. I don't need an elite defense. I just need a consistently tough, hard-nosed defense that is able to finish in the top 75 consistently in defensive efficiency, if not better, above average to good in defense. Um, and I want to see Iowa start to be competitive again with these top tier programs, and just I want to see some excitement brought back into this program, and see a change in what we can expect with the University of Iowa. But um, it's going to be. Bottom line is, Fran McCaffrey did have a lot, or a decent amount of regular season success. He didn't win a Big Ten title, but consistently Iowa was top 5 in the league, top 7 in the league. I think he did have a tied for second once or twice. They did win the Big Ten conference tournament, so he does have some decent shoes to fill. I mean, it's definitely not nothing. Fran McCaffrey was the winningest coach in Iowa men's basketball history, so it's not nothing. And the program is not at an all-time low like it was when Fran McCaffrey took over for Todd Licklider. So, but also, we'll have to see with recruiting. We'll have to see what type of recruiter Ben is. Is he able to punch above his weight class due to his salesmanship and style of play, and respect as a coach from the future athletes or recruits that they go after? All of that is going to play a factor. I where I sit now, I'd be surprised if he's not a decent recruiter, given that he is a young guy. He's obviously been able to attract a fair amount of talent to some of these lower school, Division II, small time Division I school in Drake. But of course, Big Ten competing with the big dogs for the big recruits is a little bit different. So, um, and then last thing is, I wonder if he's going to reach out and try and hire Matt Gatens. I think hiring Matt Gatens would be a good hire, a guy that has played at the University of Iowa, coached at Iowa for the last couple of years. Matt Gatens has been a good recruiter, and he's a guy that can link Ben McCollum, possibly, not guaranteed, but possibly, to some of these guys that have left the program and hit the transfer portal or decommitted from the University of Iowa. I'm not saying it's the most important thing, but it's definitely something that I would consider. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. I think I have hit everything I want to hit in this video. If you have stayed all the way to the end, I really do appreciate it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Like, comment, share, subscribe. And of course, last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy willow and facts or feelings, because your feelings just don't matter. Reports say Iowa is finalizing talks to land formerly, or what would be formerly, Drake men's basketball coach Ben McCollum. All right, Hawk fans, I'll see you guys next time. Go Hawks. Bye-bye.